Hello everyone, and welcome to the last Warcry battle report of the year. Today the Stormcast Eternals will be facing off against a small host of Skaven. So without further ado, let's introduce the warbands, draw some cards, and see what this battle has in store for us. Starting with the Stormcast Eternals Hammer Squad, it will contain nothing more than the Evocator Prime. Moving on to their Dagger Squad, it will contain one Sequitur with Stormsmite Great Mace, and one Castigator Prime. And lastly, for their Shield Squad, it will contain the Warband's leader, the Knight Incanter, and another Sequitur with Stormsmite Great Mace. Then for the Skaven, they will be mostly running a Pestilens theme, within their Hammer Squad, 3 Plague Monks with dual blades. As for their Dagger Squad, they will bring a Hulking Rat Ogre, together with another Plague Monk, and a Giant Rat Companion. And lastly for their shield, it will contain the Warband's leader, the Bringer of the Word, together with a Plague Censer Bearer, another Plague Monk, and another Giant Rat. This brings us to the cards of this battle. For the map, I draw this Ortroff dense setup of the Varanite Siphon Camp. The victory condition will be Realmstone Hunt, meaning that a total of 4 treasure tokens will be set up, and at the end of battle round 3, the warband with the most tokens in possession will win. As for deployment, I pull Spearhead, and the roll-off results in the Skaven getting to choose their deployment zone, and they will choose to be the red deployment zone. This also means they will get to set up their treasures first, which they will put near their deployment zones of both their Shield Squad and their Hammer Squad. As for the Stormcast, they will put their treasures near their Daggers deployment zone and their Shields deployment zone. As for the twist, I pull Bloodwind, which gives wounded fighters an extra attack and an extra bonus to their strength. With the cards now pulled and the fighters set up, it's time to get into turn 1 initiative. Starting with the Skaven, they will roll 1 double and 4 singles. As for the Stormcast, they roll a quad and 2 singles. Each warband then opts to save their wild dice, meaning that the first activation will go to the Skaven. They will start off the game by sending off one of their Plague Monks under this rickety structure to get the treasure and make as much distance as possible. The Stormcast will then activate their Castigator to immediately snipe this Plague Monk. Hitting on 3s, they will do 2 damage on a hit and 4 damage on a crit, and so they hope to be able to take the Plague Monk out in 1 attack action. But sadly for them, they roll a crit and a hit, dealing a total of 6 damage. Thus, they will also use their second action to attack, and this will take the Plague Monk out. Another Plague Monk is then going to use the Rush ability to move 14 inches, grab the treasure, and then continue the path to the other side of the board. The Evocator Prime will then double move out of his corner. The Skaven will then activate one of their Giant Rats and move him over to his other Giant Rat friend in the middle of the board. After which, a Sequitur with Stormsmite Great Mace is going to move to grab a treasure and then hold his ground. The Bringer of the Word will then follow the lead of that one Giant Rat and start chasing after him. After which, the Knight Incanter is going to move up and try to blast the Rat Ogre with his ranged attack. Hitting on 4s, he scores a total of 2 hits, dealing 6 damage. Next, another Plague Monk from the corner is going to start moving, but this one is going to grab the treasure as he does so, and end this move near one of the Ortroffs. Another Sequitur with Stormsmite Great Mace is then going to move, grab the treasure, and then take up a defensive position next to his Castigator friend. This will be the last activation of the Stormcast this turn, and sadly they found no use for their quad. The Plague Monk Censer Bearer is then also going to move up to the rest of his ratty friends. Afterwards, the Skaven Dagger Squad is going to start moving out, with the Rat Ogre and the Plague Monk targeting the Sequitur with Great Mace with the treasure, whereas the Giant Rat goes to the Castigator to hold him down. This still leaves us with one lone Plague Monk in the corner, who's going to double move to also hold down the Castigator. And with that comes an end to turn 1. Currently, I find it already looks pretty bad for the Stormcast, They are pretty much immediately driven to the defensive due to the sheer number of the Skaven, which leaves them with hardly any fighters themselves to chase after the treasures that the Skaven have. The only fighter they have which has a shot of getting a treasure is the Evocator Prime, and he will probably still be moving next turn, but we'll see how it goes. Maybe their sheer strength will easily ward off the Skaven attack, and then they'll have all of their resources available to chase after the last treasure keepers. After all, their units are quite weak. There's only one way to find out though, so let's quickly get into turn 2 initiative. Starting with the Skaven again, they roll a triple and a double. The Stormcast then roll a double and 4 singles. The Skaven then use one of their wild dice to turn their triple into a quad, and the Stormcast will use 2 of theirs to make 2 additional doubles. With that, the Stormcasts still have more singles, and thus they will take the first activation. They will activate one of their Sequitors and use the Onslaught ability, after which they first try to take out the Plague Monk in a single attack action, but unfortunately they only managed to do 6 damage, and thus they will use their second action too, and with an additional crit and a hit they do manage to get the job done. Little worrying he didn't get the damaged Rat Ogre though. The Skaven will then reinforce their Rat Ogre with a Giant Rat Friend. The Castigator Prime is then going to start punching. First she's going to try to take out the Giant Rat. Hitting on 3s, she manages 1 crit and 3 hits, dealing 7 damage, which is definitely enough to take that fighter out. This still leaves her with another action which she will use to punch the Plague Monk. And this time she rolls the exact same as last time, dealing 7 damage, only this is 1 damage short to take out a Plague Monk. The Skaven then send over another Plague Monk for the Castigator Prime to deal with later. The Evocator Prime is then going to double move into melee range with the Plague Monk and the Plague Censer Bearer in order to get to the treasure. However, the Plague Monk Censer Bearer is going to use the Musk of Fear reaction, which immediately lets the Plague Monk disengage from the situation. Another Plague Monk carrying a treasure is then going to move up to the structure here and climb on top of it. The Stormcast Eternals are then going to expend another double to send their Knight Incanter over to the Evocator Prime to help with the treasure hunt. The other Plague Monk with a treasure is then going to make moves to try and join his friend, ending his turn at the bottom of the structure that his friend just climbed upon. Another Sequitur with Stormsmite Great Mace will then activate and will attempt to attack the Rat Ogre. Unfortunately though, he is just out of range, and so he will need to move first. With his remaining action, he'll be hitting on 3s, and with 2 hits, he will deal 6 damage, slowly whittling the hulking beast down. The Plague Monk ready to attack the Castigator Prime is then going to use the Onslaught ability, and hitting on 5s on the first attack, he will score 3 hits and 1 crit. And on the second attack he misses everything, dealing a total of 7 damage. All of the Stormcast have already activated this turn, thus we will immediately move on to the Rat Ogre, who will use the Rampage ability in order to deal as much damage as possible. So on his first attack he'll be rolling with 5 dice, and hitting on 4s he'll be getting 2 crits and 3 hits, dealing a total of 28 damage. Yeah. It's 4 damage per hit and 8 damage per crit, so it accumulates fast. As these Sequiturs with Great Maces only have 20 health, this will take the first one out. He then immediately turns his frenzied gaze towards the next Sequitur with Great Mace, and once again he will roll 2 crits and this time only 2 hits. This is still 24 damage though, which is enough to take out the fighter. The Stormcast, seeing their 2 treasures both dropped and only 3 fighters remaining to turn the tide, realize that this situation is unwinnable, and thus they will concede, so victory will go to the Skaven. Welp. That was definitely the shortest battle report on this channel, and probably will be for quite some time. If I ever do end up running something that is somehow shorter than this, I'm not sure if I would upload it, to be honest. Personally find that games that don't make it to turn 3 are not the most entertaining thing, so I am of course speaking from the perspective of playing them though. I don't know how it is to watch them, so I do hope I still made it entertaining to watch despite its short nature. And if not, well, it's not the end of the world. There's always the next battle report. Now onto some practical stuff. You might have noticed already, but I have a new microphone. So the audio should sound significantly different and I hope better than the last videos. So I'm still tweaking a little bit in terms of, like how far I put it and whatnot to make the most optimized use of this new mic. So if you've watched some of my previous videos, let me know if this is an improvement over the last ones. And if not, and if you have tips to make it better, I'd love it if you let me know as well. If you liked the video and you want to support the channel, doing stuff like subscribing, liking, and of course sharing the video would be lovely, and I'd highly appreciate it. If you'd like to support the channel financially as well, you can leave a small donation in my Ko-fi in the description. As a final note though, I hope you all had a wonderful holiday season. Assuming you're watching this soon after this was uploaded, this is very obviously going to be the last video of the year for me. So if you are watching this before the year change, I hope you enjoyed. And I wish you a very happy 2024. I hope to see you all next year for more Warcry battle reports. See you then.